Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kickball Podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, Quin DeLaMater. Mater, or how do you say the last part of your last name?
DeLaMater. I know the
DeLaMater.
capital
Yeah,
letters can get people confused, but it's pretty DeLaMater, pretty
got it.
smooth.
Okay, I make sure. So I knew, but I make sure sometimes just to make that clear to everyone who's going to be watching. But anyway, Quinn DeLaMater of Boston University, one of the top center backs really in the country, and we'll get into a little bit of a few of the reasons why, some of the things we just watched back some of the tape, and what that really looks like for Quinn going into his senior year. Um, how's everything going, my man?
It's going well. I mean, I have a great group of guys around me.
Nice.
It's soccer. I grew up playing soccer, so I can't really ask for much more at this point in my life.
Right.
But now it's just excited to get back at it in the fall.
Yeah, huge. So, I mean, a lot of these guys end up playing USL two ball, to whatever, to stay sharp, get those reps. But, we were talking a little bit about, what you've been doing just to stay sharp. And I think it's really interesting. Would you mind telling us a little bit about staying fit, making sure that you're ready for this upcoming fall season? I'm, I can only imagine that reporting for you guys isn't too far away, but, tell us a little bit about, um, maybe the unorthodox ways that you've been getting ready for this fall.
So actually, I've never played summer ball or USL 2 or anything like that.
Interesting.
I've actually liked to do things on my own and monitor my body because I'm the one who knows it the best.
Mhm.
And the ways I do that are, yes, individual trainings and picking up trainings with guys who go to college in my area and play D1, but also playing tennis. And I've found that playing tennis, and it's usually me against both of my parents, which my mom played tennis growing up, and my dad's, he can hold his own. He's not good as my mom, but I won't tell him that. He knows it. Um,
Mhm.
but no, I've found playing tennis 3, 4 times a week for multiple hours has just really helped the side to side movement and the overall just endurance of my body. And
Mhm.
I've seen it really help me progress, not exponentially, but gradually every year getting better and more fit. So yeah, I found it really successful.
Very nice. And I think it's easy to get caught up with, for some young players who maybe are looking to find things that maybe are more attuned to their own body and developing their own fitness in ways that maybe aren't quite soccer, that aren't quite USL2, NPS, these summer leagues. Um, and you seem to have found a system that really works for your own self, for your own health. What would you say to some younger players that may be looking for something like that, but maybe not getting those kinds of reps in, trying to figure out something like yourself where, you're able to work on your own personal fitness in that way.
If you're struggling to figure that out, I would say talk to the people you grew up playing with, see what they're doing. Maybe they're playing USL too, but maybe they're not. And if they're not, you can find yourself training partners, and then you guys can be on the same regimen, or you guys could look into new other things and start playing tennis a couple times a week and doing that. But because you're in a controlled group where there's not someone trying to manage so many people, you're really able to focus in and hone in on yourself and how you can prepare yourself best so you arrive and for preseason the most fit you could possibly make yourself.
Right. And I think it's something that, was this something, a realization that you knew that you needed to come to with yourself, or was it someone that you were talking with about making sure that you needed to stay fit in other ways that maybe weren't soccer? Like when did you come around to the idea? I know you mentioned you never played USL2 ball, and I mean, as long as you're producing in the fall, that's what people are watching. But when did you realize that the way that you're spending your summers, um, just getting that independent training in different sports even was going to be the best for you?
So it was actually funny. So when I was on the Atlanta United Academy and I was cut from it, one thing that they left me back with some feedback was that maybe pick up another sport that could help you develop into your body instead
Hmm.
of develop into a player because they believed I had the talent and the player, but I just needed to develop my body and figure out what type of player I'm going to be according to what my body will let me.
Sure.
So after that, I was kind of like, well, my parents played tennis, so I'll try it.
Mm,
And I was like, that's actually kind of hard because it's a lot of lateral movement, turning, going, and it also builds up your upper body endurance, which I've found very handy in our conference specifically, which it's pretty physical.
mm,
But it's just, I've always kind of liked training by myself, and I've pushed myself individually more than anyone else has pushed me. So I kind of have stuck with that method and kind of really allowed myself to understand the body and mind connection. And I've seen it be very advantageous for me in terms of my production on the field. So I've stuck at it, no need to change. And
mm,
the biggest thing for me and what I've been told is to not peak too early.
mm,
And that's something my dad drilled into my brain from a young age. So I have him to thank for all of that and kind of making sure every summer, yeah, I might be doing the same thing and not playing, but if I can increase the volume and intensity at what I'm doing every single summer, I
mm.
mean, there's no way I can go backwards. So I like to stick to that method.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you giving us this insight, and you probably really turned on a lot of people that are going to end up watching this onto something that's different and to something that's tennis. And so I really appreciate you wanting to talk about this kind of work that you're playing. I mean, I think there are circles in college soccer where if you're not playing USL2, there's the expectation you're not fit. And um, that you're not ready for this fall season, that you're not committed to the sport, but that's never something that's really been a problem for you. You just know other ways that you need to develop your own body, develop your own athleticism, your fitness, and it's something that I think a lot of young players would really admire once they really get to be able to hear these kinds of perspectives. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Of course, I know it's a soccer podcast, but I just had to bring some tennis into it.
And I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's yeah, not to go so far into, but I think it's valuable though too. I mean, I've talked to some people that have been close to me in my life have been professors, and it's been about the psychology of sport. And some players go into different sports, not quite even for the fitness reason, but just play other sports to get out of a lull of their primary sport. But also there are things, I mean, I think it's interesting that you play an individual sport though too. I've heard it a lot with soccer players, comparing that with golf, though the skills aren't as transmittable, going from a team sport to an individual sport where a lot of the individual sport is also very mental. Is that a parallel that you also see? Well, while also improving on the agility and certain other things within tennis that you find to be beneficial.
100%. The mental side of tennis and kind of just training and expecting, like the expectations that you have for yourself can only increase, and they have. And the competitiveness, even though I'm might be playing against my two parents,
Mm,
but at the end of the day, I look at it as I'm playing, it's one versus two, and I'm going to make sure that one is going to win. And once you kind of get it down to that simple way to think about it in your brain, you kind of stop overcomplicating all the other aspects of game. And you remember that it's me versus whoever
mm,
and however many. And it's kind of built my mental side up. And I think that's helped me just as much as the physical side, for sure.
huge. All right. Yeah, well, I appreciate this insight onto, present day Quin DeLaMater. But I also want to ask though too, I mean, it's important for, the viewers who maybe don't know you over the last 3 years and are looking into this fall season to know where your story comes from. I know you mentioned the Atlanta United Academy. But I want to give you the space to be able to tell your entire, I mean, maybe it's not even your soccer journey, maybe it's your entire sporting journey up to this point with everything that's gone down, but specifically with tennis. But however long or short the story is, I'm here for all of it. So where do your first memories and moments in soccer or even tennis and sports, we'll say, take place? And I mean, I'd love to hear really your entire progression in youth sports. However long or short it is, I'm here for all of it. So yeah, but where does your sporting journey start?
So, believe it or not, I only started playing tennis 3, 4 years ago. So
Really?
that, yeah, which
Huh.
that's kind of what I did it the first year, and I was like, oh wow, I can actually move way more than I used to move
Okay.
and quicker as well, which was huge because I wasn't the fastest growing up. Um,
Hmm.
but it started, I'm from Marietta, Georgia. And I started at what was Cobb FC, but turned into Southern Soccer Academy, which is they now have a USL2 team. The Swarm is what they go by. Um, and I guess I asked my parents this recently, and I asked, when did you know I was going to be able to do something with soccer, go to college for it, make something out of it? And they're like, well, you were 4 and you were dribbling from one corner flag to the other around the goal, teasing all the kids, and then you just hit it from like half field into the net. And I was like, well, that's fair.
But
But no, after that, I played youth at Southern Soccer Academy with a lot of great players. Um, we at one point we were a top 4 team in the nation, but at this point I was maybe the sixth best player on my team. I
Hmm.
wasn't even thinking about what I could do with soccer. Like I played with some guys, Alan Carlton, who just made his MLS debut for Nashville. A lot of great college soccer players as well. And I kind of just I developed into someone who wasn't a vocal leader all the time, but by observation, I was able to pick up things on what I liked about this method and process. And I kind of came into my own as someone that people look to when the pressure is on and when there's no plausible solutions for me to, and I was the guy who delivered and figured it out because that's who I made myself into be. And when I was 13, I got scouted to Atlanta United. I was a striker at the time. Actually, I grew up playing striker. That's a big point. Um, so yeah, I loved strikers. I loved Suarez and Ibrahimovic growing up. Those are my two favorite. Um, and it's funny, I got selected for the first Atlanta United team in 2017, U14, and I played striker twice and I scored 8 goals in both games or combined in both games. And then they're like, you're a little tall. I think you could be a really good 10. And then I got to 10. And then we think you could be a really good 6. So I dropped down to 6.
Huh.
And then eventually once I got to 11v11, they thought it was best for me to be a center back. And I mean, I went from striker to center back in 8 months, and I mean I wasn't very happy, but
Mhm.
I couldn't say that because I was lucky enough to be on that team, and I was grateful, and I was just like, okay, you guys know better than me, so
Hmm.
that happened, and when I was young, there were some injuries and stuff that set me back, so a combination of where am I going to play, what position am I, and am I going to be healthy all the time? Caused the eventual process of me being cut from Atlanta United and then going back to SSA. So I did that, and when I went back to SSA, I realized that instead of me looking and observing other people, players started to look and observe me. So I noticed that and I picked up on that, and it forced me to treat myself as someone who's valuable to my team and look at it that way and not be so worried about myself for me. But instead be worried about myself for the players around me. Make sure I'm good so everyone else can be good.
Right.
And they're not worried about me, so that's one less thing to worry about on their game day. Um, and then when there was a time where DA got cut off and then ECNL came and all that stuff, so I chose to stay ECNL for Concord Fire, which that's when I kind of began to come out of my shell. I was in a new environment. I wasn't in Marietta anymore. I was in Atlanta,
Mm,
30 different people that I didn't know. And I I mean, I felt like a small fish in a big pond. Um,
right.
and that's kind of that's a very unnatural feeling for me. And I kind of shied away from putting myself in bad situations that I couldn't quite understand on the forefront, but it was worth it because Concord, they developed me, they let me play freely. They understood that I was a player who made my name as a creative player rather than the robust defender that is just always going to 2 foot you and get a bunch of yellow cards and red cards. But I kind of began to shape my identity around kind of how I could control things in my brain and how that translates onto the field.
Mhm.
Um, and that's where a lot of development came. So I have a lot of thankfulness for Conquer Fire. And this was also a big point because I was going into high school and I was playing both at a time. So high school would end 3:30. I'd train till 5.
Mhm.
I'd drive to Atlanta and practice at 6. Um, so when I got to high school, everyone knew that I was a good player,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call them, and they put a lot of pressure on me to do well. And I looked at it very logically and said, look, I could take in the pressure and I could fall victim to it and just crumble under it. And instead, I chose to look at it as turn their expectations into your own. And I turned their expectations of me being the best player on the team into my own. And I told myself, you have to be the best player because you have to be. And I made it so simple in my mental that it was kind of easy to build off of.
Right.
And I kind of have kept that principle going in my life for everything I do. So that's helped me a lot. And that whole backstory experience has built me up to just figure out that it's so simple and less complicated if you just change the way you think about it in your brain. And I think a lot of people could benefit from that nowadays because there's a lot of noise and a lot of ways to create noise. And so if anyone could take anything away from that, it's just try your best to, simplify things to better it for your understanding, not everyone else, you know.
Huge. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I think you've been challenged throughout your life with external expectation or adjustments from coaches or other environments that have put restrictions on you, but you seem to have always um, crawled back, fought back in a way to reshape the situation in your own mind. It didn't matter what someone else was thinking about your own person or how someone else was maybe picking apart you as a player. That, and I think this perfectly summed it up. You weren't you weren't aiming to be the best player to satisfy other people's expectations when you were playing in high school. You were playing to be the best player because you had to be the best player in your own head. That's you set a goal for yourself that you had to be the best player. That's what I'm trying to say. Um, but yeah, no, I think a really mature mindset for a kid who probably really started thinking about this, what, at 14 or 15 years old? How do you even come up with this? How does this even enter your own head? What prompts this um exercise of thought for you?
Well, I had two older brothers. One's 24 now, one's 27. So we were 3 years staggered,
Okay.
and they both played soccer. My oldest brother was a goalkeeper. He played at a D3 school in Indiana, Wabash.
Mm,
And my middle brother, he played his whole life, but he didn't want to play in college. He was ready for the normal lifestyle. But I mean, I grew up in not just inside. I mean, I grew up going to their games, and I mean, the whole time they were playing on the field, I was playing on the field next, just with my parents, just me and the ball. And I kind of grew up looking up to them, not specifically, oh, I want to be like them. Every aspect of me wants to be like them. And I'm not like glorifying them in any way when I am observing them growing up, but I kind of looked at them and now I love both of them and I think they're exceptional men. And, but I could look at them and be like, okay, I really like that aspect about you and how that adds value to your life. But I can also look at this part and be, maybe that's not my style. And maybe I don't want to have that attribute. And when someone describes me as a man, and I have to thank my dad because I mean, yeah, I could say he's the reason, him and my mom are the reason who I am today because they simply let me figure things out. And
mm,
I never questioned it because that's just what they did. They allowed me to figure out life from a very young age. And I had a lot to observe with two older brothers and with three boys who all play soccer at once. You could imagine the conflict in the house and
right.
the broken lamps and glasses
Mm,
and windows. I that's too long to get into, but
right.
we all know how that goes.
Mm.
But basically I've always had a lot to observe and a lot to absorb, a lot of information. Um, and I've kind of been able to process that, all of it slowly without without thinking too much into one area, without thinking about the other. I've always liked to look at everything that's on the table and pick and choose what I want because when you realize that the options are there. It's just whether or not you want them to be in front of you. And that's what my parents have drilled me from a young age to think like. So,
And how does that progress as you move into your college life? Is it more, I mean, you've been allowed to figure things out for yourself. Has much changed as you've gone through college or even as you entered college?
um, yes, because
Mm,
and during when you play for a club pre-college, not everyone's going to be your closest friend. And
right.
you're not going to have, because you guys are living hours in one direction, hour in the other direction. It's hard to create a relationship outside of what you guys have at practice,
Mm,
which makes you value that time a little more. But when I got to college, I realized that, oh, these 26 guys are like, I'm going to see them every day, every part of the day. and they soon became 26 best friends that you have. And from that, I mean, talk about me observing from my two brothers. Now I have 26 guys that I can take value that they add to the world and absorb it. So you kind
Mm.
of have to go into it with an open mind, and I did, and I hope I'm gonna come out the other end better.
Right.
But no, nothing, my methods and thought process hasn't changed. It's now my role has slightly shifted because as I develop, I'm not in high school anymore and I'm becoming an adult. And you realize that people are looking up to you not just because you're good at soccer, but because you have good traits as a human and a person, and
Mm.
you really care about what you're doing. So it's kind of shifted from how could I be the best player from to during college, how can I be the best person and teammate so that my everyone I'm playing with is able to function on the same wavelength as me and everyone's happy and balanced.
Right. Yeah. It's well said, especially because time in college, well, you're even not only as a playing time in college, but also just as a person in or well, developing in a pivotal part of your life. Those relationships change year to year. So it's important to be able to be adaptable to them, right? And to understand, I go back to what you were saying, looking at an entire picture of how not only team dynamics, but also just every new thing as um, every new item or every new thing in life becomes more relevant as time and being able to wrap that all into something that works or either doesn't, because there are things that may need to be cut out or can't be included. And you would know better in these situations than I am. I'm talking more abstractly, I guess. But I'm also curious how you ended up at Boston University as well. What was the recruiting process like for you? And I mean, I'm sure that it was a very attractive location for you just having had a conversation about you being able to think through a lot of things in your own life, being willing to be adaptable. And then Boston University was the location that you ended up deciding on. Tell me about that.
So both of my parents are from Chicago. So they moved down to Georgia before I was born. So I grew up driving to Chicago, 12, 13-hour drive once, twice a year growing up. And I mean, it was what I look forward to every year because I mean, I think it's so great up there. Um, and in terms of my recruitment, I honestly would say there's a lot of things but I wouldn't advise people to do it how I did. I struggled to understand that I needed to keep my options open and kind of continue conversations rather than cutting them short when they didn't need to be. And I actually didn't even contact Boston University, and they didn't contact me until my last ECNL showcase.
Wow.
So it was I mean, things lined up pretty nicely, and I was kind of looking at some college, it was mostly colleges in the South or below the Mason-Dixon line, I'd say.
Mm.
And and then suddenly at like this last week of my ECNL club career, Boston University texts me and I'm like, oh, I didn't expect that. I wasn't even aware
Mm.
of them. They weren't even on my radar.
Right.
Um, so I looked into it and I was like, it was pretty intimidating. Moving to a city, you don't know anyone.
Sure.
A major city, it's very like, and I told myself, look, I've been too kind of, I don't know, blatant with these other colleges during recruiting. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna ride this out and see what comes of it. So I went on the visit, and I mean, it was amazing. And a perk was that it was back up north and
Mm.
out of the humidity. Um, Unfortunately, I can't spend my summers up there right now, but
Mm.
that would be nice. It's pretty hot and humid down here. And I think it just shows that there's always a path that you're supposed to go on, and you just have to do every action with intent, and that path will show itself to you. And I mean, I said yes to BU, and it's been the best 3 years of my life, and I can't really say any fault to it. So
And I've got a pretty close contact at the if you know Coach Blessetti, he's also from my area, my New York area.
I know Coach Bassetti.
Literally went to high school down the road. I mean, he's much older than not much older than me. He's gonna kill me when he hears this.
He
He
can be. He can be much older than you. That's fine.
he is, but he you know he's got a few years on me. He's still a young dude, but um
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I noticed when we were first talking because Boston we helped out with the schedule release for them, and I'm very appreciative of the program for wanting us to be a part of something that's huge for them. It's a great moment for them about sharing their family's schedule. And how we first got contacted. I think he's also the one who runs the social media.
Hmm.
He says, "Oh, text me at this number," and it's a 914 number, and that's my area code. So I know he's
Yeah.
a New York guy. I knew and that ended up being how we connected because I think I'd seen him around a little bit with some of the other youth teams here, and
Yeah.
I mean, seeing him in college, like seeing him being able to coach in college is it's a pretty sweet thing.
Yeah. We've got who else we have from New York? We've got Giuseppe, Andrea, anyone else? I don't know. Maybe a few new guys. Who knows?
Interesting.
Um, but no, love the New York guys. Always fun. Always fun. Also, love the Miami guys as well. They add that bit of spice you need to your squad, you know?
Sure. Yeah, I guess now that we're on the topic of it, tell me about the composition of some of these teams though too. I know BU goes far and wide to find this kind of talent, even some of them that are international too. I know Colin Ennis was a kid that I talked to way, oh my gosh, it has to be a year and a half now. And we've kept in touch. Like he's playing professionally overseas now, but I know he was a Midwest kid. So that
Mm.
was, and excuse me for saying Midwest and encompassing I mean, of about a dozen states saying that because it doesn't come to mind. I knew whatever, not to go on, but tell me about some of the talent that funnels into BU and creates this great organization.
Well, it's thanks to our coaches, and now we have Joe, which adds more of the New York and
Mm.
all that region, and because our head coach Kevin Nyland and associate head coach Pat Lopez, I mean they came from FIU. Um, Nyland, he's coached all over. I mean, they're all very well experienced and know what they're doing, and they've kind of you can tell that they've left the location that they've previous coached in and left a footprint that's pretty remarkable, and it shows by all the recruitment that we're still getting from Miami, and we've had some guys from California who have come over, but I'd say it's strong East Coast. And we have in my class we have a Spanish player, Diego Rivera, which I'm sure you guys know about, midfielder of the year last year, and Alex Bonington from England. Um,
Right.
he's got he's got a big season coming up. Um, but no, it's just our our recruitment has dipped their toes in a lot of different areas and not just isolated one, which I think is just it's great for adding depth to your squad, which I believe we have.
Absolutely. And I have to imagine, not to get so far into some of the locker room conversation, and this is something that I guess I'm not prescribing, but it's something that I'm curious happens with you guys. But I have to imagine that the diversity in that room is something that is stressed and something that's put right to the forefront of you guys because of not for the coaches to show off how far and wide that they can scout and find kind of talent that could play at this kind of level that wins trophies in the Patriot League and makes runs in the national tournament, but to stress how all this one sport in all of your different journeys has brought you all to this particular room, to this particular place, like all across the country, all across different walks of life. And you could say that about a bunch of different schools, but there are also a lot of them that recruit from a single state. And I'm talking about top programs that are from, a particular region, with varying success. But I mean, if I'm in that room, I know that the diversity of journeys and backgrounds is something that I'm definitely paying attention to.
Yeah, 100%. Because, and it's thanks to our staff that they kind of helped us realize that we're all different. We're all from different places, but the only one common thing that we might have is that we play soccer and we're on the same team. And now we spend every second with each other. And once we realized that, it's kind of like you don't want to leave with any regrets. And you kind of want to make sure when your time is finished, whatever you're doing, that you leave the footprint that you want to leave on that program is a good one. You make sure it's a good one, and by doing that, everything else is fun. Everything's fun because if your head's in the right place and you've got the right intentions, I mean, as a group, it's hard to fail. And one thing that our head coach has done is created a culture that's very eclectic and creates a great camaraderie. And I mean, I could call anyone on the team and they would answer and we'd be talking for a while.
That's so nice to see. So, um, I guess the other thing I want to ask though too, walk me through. I guess I'm gonna ask a similar question, I guess, as the youth story, but walk us through the last 3 years with Boston University. I mean, 23 was a huge year. I know you've won Defensive Player of the Year. I think this last season, and I mean, if you didn't win it in 23, you probably also had a real damn good shot at it too. Just looking back at some of the and we'll get into some of those other things because I mean, just to talk about your progressive passing through back lines and into the midfield is fantastic. I like what you've been able to do with defensive duels, even though it's not something that you're seeing a whole high volume in. You're able to be effective in a lot of those that you've been able to see, and I mean, your ability to be aware of an entire pitch on that right side, still being able to work, taking your touches, but also again, taking an awareness of the entire situation, the entire pitch is something that you've been very great at. Um, but in any case, looking back on the last 3 years with team growth, maybe some of the matches that ended up playing pivotal in a mindset change, what can you recall from the last 3 years? I'd love to hear in any and all of it.
Yeah. First of all, thank you. I appreciate the recognition.
Of course.
And when I came in as a freshman, I was, I don't know. I was very excited and I thought I was going to play right away. And because I was coming off a high, I had just won a great award in high school my senior year. So my confidence was through the roof. And luckily enough and unluckily enough, I walked into a locker room, I mean, with a plethora of ta talent and diversity, like you said. And I I went in that fa first training session and I came out of it and I was like that I didn't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that. And I was kind of like taken taking a step back because I had to realize that this was actually going to be hard and I wasn't just going to walk onto a field and play for 4 years straight.
Sure.
So actually the first game was Albany, and I didn't play a minute. I was the only player on the roster who didn't play a minute, except the backup, the third, fourth goalie.
Mm.
Um, and after that, I mean, I wanted to just pack my bags and go. And but I allowed myself the minute of just sitting there and realize what's happening and realize that these guys are 3 years ahead of you. They have 3 years on you, and start to look at yourself in 3 years, comparing yourself to where you are now. And so the first season, it was rough, but the pivotal moment that changed everything was my first. So I didn't play a minute in the Albany game. Then the next game was number nine UNH at their home opener. They have 4,000 fans, and we get to locker room, and I'm on the team sheet. I'm starting right
Mm.
center back, and I'm like, okay, I just did a full 180 in a
Right.
week. Now I'm like I'm a starter against the number nine team in the country, and
Huh.
I just had to look at it like that. I'm not someone who didn't play against Albany or might not play in the next game. I'm a player who's playing in for Boston University against number nine UNH, and it was it was one of the better games I've had, and I like to say that kind of I was able to figure out how college is because of that game. And thankfully it was against a very good team, which kind of pointed out all the things I was doing wrong at that point. And it made me a better player, but also better mentally to understand that this isn't high school soccer and this isn't ECNL soccer. This is your job, and you go on the field because you're expected to do well, because you're given the opportunity to train and get better every day. So after UNH game, which we upset them and won, so I took a lot of pride in that clean sheet. And from there, the rest of my freshman year was off and on good. I went on to have a couple consecutive starts, but then due to injuries and lack of good performance, I was benched for majority of the second half of the season. And after that, all focus was on how could I improve myself for the next season and make sure that I'm coming back next fall better than I was the year before. And going into my sophomore fall, I was kind of like I was in the like middle ground of am I going to start? I have the opportunity to start. And I kind of looked at it as, look, you do everything that you can control right now to be able to put yourself in that position. And that's how I had to look at things, and the rest is history. But no, I ended up to play alongside Griffin Roach for the most of the season, and I mean, he's won back-to-back Defender of the Year and All-American, and I mean, he was a elite mentor to have for anyone, and I took a lot away from him, and he added a lot of value to my life, along with a lot of the older guys that I walked into the locker room with, and so just being able to see and observe how much these older guys is valued playing. And I remember overhearing Griffin Roach, and it was like after he graduated, he said, I just miss game days because nothing else mattered. And that resonated with me so much because it's so true. And I'm sure every college soccer player would say that there's nothing like a game day. And because I was able to be around all these great players and great role models, I was able to see the real value and what it meant to these guys. So I started to value it even more myself. And I think that's what's brought the best out of me and has continued my development as a player. Um, and that's ultimately what's gotten me to the major milestones that I've reached, like the awards and everything that came with that as a team. And I'm super grateful for the guys I've played with and everything that they've offered me in value. And you just have to appreciate everything that comes in. You can take something away from everything in life, is what I've found.
Okay.
So,
Huh. Yeah, well,
yeah.
so one thing I'd like to add though too, for those of us who don't know the big award that Quinn won at the end of his freshman year, it was Georgia Gatorade Player of the Year. So that's the little award that that he was talking about at the beginning. But yeah, I think that's really insightful about knowing or well realizing that your journey in college soccer is not this. It's you're gonna have to take a few of those bumps, a few um of those relations, of those lumps that you're gonna have to build on and to have to be better from, to take the good that you can, to take whatever can make you better. And I guess just even as a center back, sometimes it's hard to improve even or hard to conceptualize how to improve because they're not exactly players that you're using to um, get as substitutes. Those are your strikers. Those are your midfielders that you're looking to provide a bit of spark. The center back is the one who's expected to play the 90 minutes. So I guess just being able to come from a year where you were going to be put in a great position with Roach to play alongside him and to be able and to know that you were going to be able to learn from that kid. Um, what was the What were those first conversations like with Griffin and knowing that you were going to be the guy to be able to pass the torch on to really for this Terriers team?
Well, I actually, when I first came in, I was pretty intimidated by him because
Mm,
he's a local guy to Boston and he's kind of the epitome of, um, like a very hardworking. He's earned his
mm,
place. He's earned everything he's gotten.
wow.
He hasn't been gifted anything, and it's very, very, very impressive. But those first conversations, I just wanted to see what he does, not even without even saying anything, just observe everything he does, his attention to detail, which was immaculate, and his mentality was the best I've seen. Didn't accept that he was going, he didn't accept losing as an option, but he also never he always did it the right way. He always won the right way. And that there's a difference in your feeling after you've won something, if you won it the right way or the wrong way. And kind of thinking about it like that thanks to him, has changed my mentality going into any sport I play, any competition I play. You just want to do it the right way. And also observing him and talking to him, it's it's pretty clear that you only need to worry about what you can control because you just need to make sure you're the best for everyone else on the team.
Mhm.
So all of you guys can be the best for each other. And that's the only way to create this group of guys who just want to win for each other. And if everyone wants to win for each other, you're bound to do something great. And that's kind of what Griffin Roach epitomized. And I mean, when I when I was training and I saw him just working twice as hard as anyone else, it may have felt impossible to me, but wanted to work just as hard. And when you have someone like that on your squad, it's very rare that people don't pull their weight. And I think that's just a huge attribute that he instilled in this squad that I'm still a part of and will hopefully be there for time to come.
So would you say you guys won the Patriot League the right way in the image of what you guys established as the right way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. All the guys who were on their fifth years deserve a trophy before they left the team. So I'm super happy for them and I'm just happy to be still here and be able to say that I have won a trophy there. So and be at the soccer program and my coaches, I mean, the work they do and how good they are at it, it's no surprise that we ended up eventually winning something.
And the best part is that you're not done yet. You've still got
Exactly.
you've still got this time to be able to move forward and take a Patriot League that, like is I would say has BU as a front runner, but being a front runner doesn't matter. It comes down to how you guys finish, and you guys know that better than anyone. Um, and I don't mean that to say that in any sort of way, but you guys know what expectation feels like going into a season is what I mean. Um, what's going to be the best that you can take, that the rest of this team can take moving them forward into this fall 2025 season? I mean, I've the team sent me the schedule. So I know, I know what these matches are. I'm going to know when to tune in. So,
Hmm.
what do you think is something that we can expect from this Terrier side? And then, we'll look to move forward from there.
Hmm. I mean, this season it's very exciting. Our first five or so fixtures are just very exciting, and I mean, if those don't get you fired up, I don't know what does. I mean, playing the defending national champions, I mean, you don't get to say that every day, which
Right.
we've actually done that. That'll be our second time as a team because we played Syracuse in the tournament 2 years ago, who had just won.
Mm.
But it kind of shows the expectations within the team and within the staff. They expect a lot of us, and the biggest thing this season is worry about ourselves. We know that we have everything to do to complete our goals and accomplish them. So now it's just can we fuse the pieces together to create a well-oiled machine by the time we need it.
Mhm.
And I have a feeling that that could very possibly happen.
Well, um, I mean, Quinn, it's been a pleasure to be able to talk to you over the last hour about your career, about what's in store for Boston University, what's potential to be moving forward. Um, and I mean, I found it a great privilege, and I'd like to thank you again for wanting to come on and, um, be a part of just the huge series of interviews that I get to say that I'm fortunate enough to have had. But, I also want to leave you with the last word. I mean, I've written down everything and I've written down, I've asked everything, I've brought everything up that I want to ask you. But if there's anything else that you feel should be said, I would like to leave the floor for you now.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I don't talk about myself a lot, so it was pretty interesting. No, but no, I enjoyed it as well, and I think people should definitely keep an eye on BU.
All right then. Well, you could be sure that me and the rest of Kickaball will. I actually just had I'm looking at the schedule right now. That's why I had it up. I'm just making sure, like, lining everything up. But yeah, but I appreciate the time. You've got a supporter in me and Kickaball the rest of this way, whatever is to come for you. With the rest of college and what I'm sure could be a great professional career with you. Having watched a good set of your film. But I really appreciate the time again and go Terriers.
Of course, go Terriers. Thank you so much.